I think compliance, large enterprises, the big corporates, it's clearly a thing. They're the ones that are on the front of the fin review if something goes wrong.
Yep.
They're the ones on the stock exchange, and they've got investors and all of that.
Your point about compliance and it being associated with corporate is so real and so true. I think from a KeyDocs point of view, we do work with those large ASX 100 enterprise businesses, but we also work with the smaller corporations. So not quite the SMB, but definitely smaller than the big enterprise. And one thing that we see that we're able to kind of bring as a best practice is the massive enterprise businesses, they might have a whole department dedicated to risk. They know what their risks are. They've got the measures in place to address them. But the smaller you get, and it can still be quite a large business by, our standards, the smaller you get, that risk department usually gets smaller too. And sometimes there may not be someone in a business who is the full-time risk manager. There might be an element of that risk governance and information management assigned to a few different roles. And the issue with that is, where does the buck stop? So a tool like KeyDocs is to enable everyone to have a bit of responsibility over that, but making sure there's a level of accountability to it as well. With risk, it's knowing what it is and putting measures in place to stop it ever happening. When we think business, it's all about KPIs, profit, revenue, engagement, NPS scores. But one thing that's not often spoken about is KRIs, key risk indicators, because that's far less exciting because it feels a bit hypothetical. But the reality is, and we see this with the media, every single day, I would argue, there is a story or a conversation around a risk that came to fruition because there wasn't the appropriate stops in place to stop it progressing. Something like KeyDocs helps you take control over your controlled document management. Obviously, there's the operational efficiency side of it, which is phenomenal for a processes and an approval workflows and obsolescence point of view. But it's taking control of those KRIs and knowing what they are before they happen. Or if they were to happen, you're able to shut it down and lock it down as quickly as possible because you've got the appropriate records in place in a system like KeyDocs to shut it down very quickly and know where it came from, whether it's a big enterprise or an SMB.
From your experience of working with the larger companies, they've got the resources in place and are more able to be able to identify those KRIs.
Yeah.
The smaller clients that you work with, like the ones who don't have those resources in place and perhaps don't know what they don't know, how are you able to help them and guide them through that sort of and provide some information?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's by industry a lot as well, right? Because certain industries are going to have certain regulatory bodies they answer to. KeyDocs has a range of different out-of-the-box solutions that are specific to industry. So we're able to say to you, hey, here's the template of the top 20 most important documents we see need to be controlled from a approval and obsolescence point of view, based on your industry. Because there's certain industries like financial services and insurance that are going to have to answer to APRA, for example, whereas something like real estate, it's not as heavily regulated, but it's more about communication and operational efficiency. So I think we're able to take the learnings we've got from the wide range of industries we work with. We do a lot in construction, utilities, mining as well, highly regulated, and the stakes are high if something goes wrong, right? We know that it's very important to mitigate the risk in those industries. And those smaller businesses, 9 times out of 10, they're aware of the risks. They see it, they live it, they breathe it every day, but it's not their core capability. You're speaking to an operations manager for a construction business and you ask them, what's your operational risk with your controlled documents? Where something like KeyDocs with an out-of-the-box construction configuration, for example, is able to go in and sit on top of an existing SharePoint and mitigate some of that risk without a huge level of operational and admin effort that comes with migrating data from system to system.